you want to begin thinking about it, will be something like section 1 in that third midterm that you're not taking. So if you check the third sample midterm, maybe you already had a look at it. Section 1 is a short question, and each year I change up the gambit, but what it asks you to do is to pick a text you particularly found impactful. You enjoyed it. You were startled by it. You thought it was fascinating. It spoke to you in some way. And to explain on you why it is important in the ways that it is. The difference in the prompt you're going to get from me for the third assignment this spring will be the following. Rather than writing on one text from the second half of the class, you're going to write on one text from the first and one from the second. That is to say, you're going to write about 2 texts. If you want to look a little bit at the third essay section of the exam, you'll see that's actually how all the third midterm questions are organized. They ask you to think about what we read to start with in relationship to what we read towards the end. As we get to being about 2 weeks out from the end of the semester, I will post and you will be informed the exact details and the exact prompt for that assignment. It will have the structure, as I say, approximately of that first section of the third sample midterm, and the expected length of what you write should be about 750 words. If it's 700, that's fine. If it's 800, that's fine. But if it's a lot shorter than 750, you're probably not getting all your work done. And if it's a lot longer, then you probably haven't distilled it. You haven't made it concise and really clear and elegantly written for us. I should mention that this assignment, like everything else in the class, is evaluated using the rubric you should be accustomed to, the LAD. And just to pull that up for you so it's clear in your mind here, this final essay will retain all of the details and all of the weightings of all your other assignments. So although you're not going to be doing quote IDs on an exam, you're going to be writing a short written assignment, a single essay, if you like, you will still want to know what happens in the text, and therefore paraphrase will matter. You will still want to be able to pull out specific details to make your point vividly. That's observation. You'll want to create a frame of reference. Are you interested in the 19th century or the ancient context? Or are you thinking about what the text does in terms of meaning for us in 2020? Above all else, just to remind you as always, it's items 4 and 5, analysis and argument, for which you earn half the points on that final assignment. As I said, a detailed prompt will be available to you on Canvas. I'll link it to the homepage on the Purple and Gold site, and your TAs will let you know when it's visible. At the end, you'll just upload it to Canvas, and the TAs will be able to see it and evaluate it. Perhaps even more a matter of concern and interest to people is what's happening with grades this semester. As you've probably heard, last week, UT approved a policy which allows all of you to opt for pass-fail in all of your classes. You may make this choice right through and past the end of the semester. This class, like every class you're taking, can be at your choice, no pressure, at your choice, converted from for a grade to for pass-fail. You have until the 29th of May, and the reason that date was chosen is all of my grades, our grades, the TAs and I, make this choice. When you make the choice, you will know what your grade is in the class, and you can either choose to keep that grade or to change it to pass-fail. In order to pass the class, so what does that require? You do need to complete all of the assignments. That rule, that obligation from the syllabus hasn't changed. So there should be 5 written assignments, 3 journals, 1 midterm, and 1 final written assignment. If you choose to receive a letter grade for the class, however, how we're going to be calculating that letter grade has changed. We are not going to be averaging these scores. We're not going to be making them out of 100 points as before. Instead, what we will do is take the highest score that you have received on any single assignment, and we will use that as the score for the whole class. So, if a single set of journals, which would only have been worth 20 points, is your highest scored assignment, that now becomes your grade for the entire class. If you had trouble with the first midterm, but you do very well on the final assignment becomes the whole grade for the class. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask your TA or me about further clarifications here. But I'm trying to give you a way to earn a grade if having a letter grade matters to you, but also offset what is obviously an extremely difficult and complicated time for everyone in the world, including, of course, our students here at UT. So that was logistics, and I only want to take a few more minutes of your time to mention a few things that are in Goethe's Faust that I'm going to be referring to between now and the end of the semester, so I'd like them to be sort of upfront in your thinking, because I think you'll appreciate what we're about to read more if you have these things as part of your framework. Who is super disappointed with his life to the point of despairing and decides, having tried out every major or field he could be involved in, having conjured various sorts of magical spirits, that he's literally going to invite the devil into his study and make a deal with him about how to improve his life. He knows full well that making a deal with the devil is a super bad idea, but he decides to do it anyway. It's a famous old German story. It actually comes from the Middle Ages. So there are two things from the Middle Ages I think are helpful to keep in mind. This famous painting, which you've already seen when we looked at Dante's Inferno, has the image of God as a kind of king. And indeed, the phrase you might attach to this image is the kingdom of heaven. Jesus sits in the center of the image, in this case, making a judgment about who goes to heaven, here on your left, and who goes to hell, here on the right, surrounded by the angels and patriarchs and other sacred figures. In the middle, the judgment's being made. I want to mention this image for two reasons. Goethe actually represents God very much as a CEO. It's quite satirical, verging on potentially being problematic for people who are devout believers. But he imagines God as someone who runs an organization and who is deeply troubled by how one of his employees, one of the members of his court, called Mephistopheles, has defied him and he's thrown him out. That model of an organization or a kingdom in heaven and on earth is core to the play. But of course, the kingdom of heaven is benevolent, which leads me to the second idea. And so God should be good. God should be doing good things for people. Why then is it that God allows people to suffer? Why are terrible things done to us, which we don't seem to have the blame for? Why are people who seem completely innocent harmed? And why do we choose to do bad things when we should entirely know better than that? About, in addition to this kind of organizational model of heaven, is the idea of why do people do bad things and why do people suffer? The image you have here is a pair of carvings from the front of a cathedral in Strasbourg on the border between France and Germany. Two beautiful young people, one is watching and one is being watched. The one who's being watched, if you happen to be familiar with the story of the Garden of Eden in Genesis, is holding a rather obvious symbol, the tempting apple that we all remember from the Adam and Eve story. Whether the two figures are particularly to your taste or not, in the Middle Ages, they would both have been considered attractive. The front of this prince of darkness, this princely character is attractive, but on the back, all kinds of snakes and rats and spiders and other sorts of vermin are eating away at his evil core. There are two ways of thinking about evil. One is that evil really is a battle between two things in the world. There is an evil force and there is a good force, and the two fight it out for human souls. That's the positive so-called view of evil, that it really is a something. The other is the privative view of evil. That is that evil or bad or suffering or pain or injustice are not a thing in of themselves. Instead, they're simply a place where good is absent, a vacuum where goodness hasn't come in. God just isn't paying attention in that moment to that thing, and evil fills in. So why, if we are in a universe that has evil as a seduction, something that happens just because there's no good around, why would we do that? As I said, Faust knows that he's not supposed to do things like conjure the devil and make bargains with him. As the story progresses, he'll do all kinds of things he's knowing that he's not supposed to do. So maybe God is letting it happen. It's a place just where good isn't. But actually, Faust actively has to choose it. The devil can't make you do something. You've got free will. Only you can make you do something. So why do you do it? You know better. You do it because for some reason and in some way, the evil thing here, offering you something seductive, alluring, and beautiful. What about the bargain that Faust is going to make with the devil, which he knows is the wrong thing to do, is alluring, is seductive, is fascinating? Usually, as I said, Faust is a character, as I said, not invented by Goethe, who makes his bargain for things like money, for power, for good looks even in some cases. In this case, those are all relevant, but he has a very specific bargain. So in addition to the setup, I wanted to mention the bargain and then the person who's involved in the bargain. What does Goethe's Faust want more than anything else? Well, he makes a bargain he thinks he will win. He wants happiness. He wants what he calls in German a schöner Augenblick, a beautiful moment, which is why I chose the song by Portugal the Man. He's willing not only to die, give up this life, he's willing to give his soul to the devil, to endure eternal damnation as well. If only, a kind of second death, if only Mephistopheles will give him one beautiful moment. Why does he care so much about a beautiful